So, when I am designing battles for the Sojourn, I'll frequently use a real historical battle or a battle from a work of fiction as a basic template, because you really can't find a better source than that. And there's a bunch of these I could talk about, a bunch of examples, but just to give you one today, the Dalstaff campaign, which we covered in our Frontier War series on YouTube, is pretty heavily modelled after the Battle of Arsuf from the Third Crusade. And to make an extremely long story short, basically it's the same kind of template of force needs to get from point A to point B. It would be disastrous if they were pulled into action on the way, so the enemy is trying to do exactly that. In the case of the Third Crusade, Richard the Lionheart's trying to get his force down the coast, and the Saracens are attempting to draw him into action, and at a certain point, to disastrous result, briefly, the Marshal of the Knights Hospitaller, fed up with being told to keep formation the whole time, breaks formation and attacks, and Richard the Lionheart, quite wisely, seeing this, then commits his entire force to that attack, even though he didn't plan it, because it's better to have the whole force do something in unison than it is to allow it to be divided. And we had a similar kind of situation with Muret in the Battle of the Five Faints, as we called it. That's a little bit of... I quite like naming battles, not always after the location. That's sort of inspired by... Game of Thrones has a great battle called the Battle of the Bells, when there's a bunch of bells being rung through the city. And I like the Battle of the Burning Mill. That's another good one. I like it when some kind of artistic aspect of the battle is used in memorializing it. But yeah, big example of reference there was using the Battle of Arsuf for that same kind of thing, with Muret in the role of this Hospitaller Marshal who pulled them into action disastrously. Although in the case of the Sojourn, they didn't reconsolidate quite as well as Richard the Lionheart did. They allowed it to fall apart in exactly the way the enemy wanted. So yeah, always look for historical sources, because no matter how much work you put into designing something fictional, there's just a certain kind of authenticity that's almost impossible to simulate without drawing it from real life. And I can talk about more of these if you want. There's some great stuff. I've got a lot of actions from Patrick O'Brien's Master and Commander, Aubrey Maturin books. There are a lot of those are big references for Sojourn battles. There's so many of these I could talk about.